More than 20 service members injured in a helicopter crash in Syria, and another military base gets a new name. All of that and more today, June 14th, 2023. Good morning, Early Birds. I'm Jonathan Lehrfeld, and this is the Early Bird Brief, produced by Defense News and Military Times. First up, 22 American service members were injured in a helicopter accident in northeastern Syria over the weekend. The military said in a statement the cause of the accident was under investigation and no enemy fire was involved. It added that the service members were receiving treatment and 10 were moved to higher care facilities outside the region. Here's why it matters. There are at least 900 U.S. forces in Syria on average. U.S. Special Operations Forces also move in and out of the country, but they are usually in small teams and are not included in the official count. U.S. forces have been in Syria since 2015 to advise and assist the Kurdish-led forces in the fight against the Islamic State. U.S. troops have been trying to prevent the terror group from making a comeback. Over the past few years, U.S. troops have been subjected to attacks carried out by IS members and Iran-backed fighters there. You might remember that a contractor was killed and 5 American troops were wounded in a drone attack in late March on a U.S. base. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the strikes were also in response to other recent attacks. Another important story: 2 active-duty Marines pleaded guilty this week to criminal charges connected to the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Joshua Abate and Dodgedale Hallinan both pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count of parading, demonstrating, or picketing in the Capitol building, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. They're scheduled to be sentenced in September. Abate's attorney declined to comment on the guilty plea. An assistant public defender representing Hallinan did not respond to an email seeking comment. A third active-duty Marine also was charged with them. Micah Coomer pleaded guilty to the same misdemeanor charge in May and is scheduled to be sentenced in August. Coomer drove to Washington on the morning of January 6th from his military post in Virginia, according to the FBI. He attended then-President Donald Trump's Stop the Steal rally with the 2 other Marines before they entered the Capitol.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
Abate, Hallinan, and Coomer all face a maximum sentence of 6 months of imprisonment. As of May 19th, the Marines were still in the service. No additional information was available on Monday. A number of Capitol rioters are military veterans, but only a few were actively serving in the armed forces when they attacked the Capitol. More than 1,000 people have been charged with federal crimes for their conduct at the Capitol on January 6th. Approximately 600 of them have pleaded guilty, mostly to misdemeanors punishable by maximum terms of imprisonment of 6 months or 1 year. To Ohio or Colorado or Alabama and beyond. In other news, House lawmakers are trying to turn the heat up on the Pentagon to make a decision about the new Space Command headquarters. For more on this, Defense News Capitol Hill reporter Bryant Harris sits down with us. Hi, Bryant. Thank you for joining us today. Could you lay out this controversy for us? What's at the heart of this, for lack of a better term, interstate beefing over the location of Space Command?
Yeah, so if you've been following this, you know that this has been an issue that's been going on since at least 2020. And so in the very last days of the Trump administration, the Air Force had selected Huntsville, Alabama as the location for Space Command headquarters, same place where the Army's Redstone Arsenal is and the Missile Defense Agency. This prompted a lot of backlash from the Colorado congressional delegation because those current operations take place in Colorado Springs. So in their view, it made more sense to put the permanent location for Space Command in Colorado Springs. They claimed it was an act of political retaliation from the Trump administration because Colorado, this is a swing state and it went for Biden in the 2020 election. The DoD Inspector General last year found that there was basically no foul play when selecting Huntsville, but the rules themselves that the the Air Force used may have been flawed, so it may not have been an optimal decision. And then shortly after, there was a Government Accountability Office report that said the Air Force did not follow best practices when making the basing decision. So, both the Alabama and Colorado delegations in Congress will cite the portions of those reports they like best. But, now we're more than 2 years out. The Air Force has been reviewing this for quite some time, and a decision is long overdue.
And lawmakers in the House have introduced legislation to get a final answer about the location of the base. What are they hoping to do, and who's driving that legislation?
Legislatively, Mike Rogers, a congressman from that state, is now the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. So he's in a position to kind of try to force a result, and that's what he's trying to do in the National Defense Authorization Act this year. The chairman's mark, the draft legislation, was introduced last night. And in that, there's language that basically halts military construction on the temporary Space Command headquarters in Colorado Springs until the Air Force makes a decision and Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall submits a report justifying the final location. And on top of that, it also freezes half of the Air Force Secretary's travel budget until Congress receives that justification. The full committee is expected to vote on the NDAA next week. So Mike Rogers is kind of using his position to force a decision that's long overdue. And, more key context here is that there is an NBC report in May that reported the Biden administration is potentially, reevaluating taking the permanent location decision away from Huntsville and keeping it in Colorado Springs, in part because of the Alabama's restrictive new abortion law.
If you liked our conversation with Bryant, please be sure to like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Also on the radar for today, the Army officially redesignated the Louisiana installation, previously known as Fort Polk, to Fort Johnson yesterday. The fort is home to the Joint Readiness Training Center and the 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 10th Mountain Division. The base's new name honors New York National Guard Sergeant William Henry Johnson. The Black World War I soldier bravely fought off German forces to save a fellow soldier's life. Johnson served with a New York National Guard Infantry Regiment for Black Americans that was later renamed the 369th Infantry Regiment and nicknamed the Harlem Hellfighters. He became a national hero after he single-handedly repelled a German raiding party with his rifle butt, grenades, his fists, and a knife in May 1918. In the process, he also saved his fellow soldier from capture. Johnson died in 1929 and is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. He was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart, Distinguished Service Cross, and Medal of Honor for his actions. And now, here are some other stories that we're hearing chirps about. The State Department said the Pentagon will deliver a new package of military aid to Ukraine aimed at bolstering the counteroffensive against Russia. The $325 million package will include a wide range of rockets, missiles, and other munitions. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has recommended to the president that Admiral Samuel Paparo, the commander of U.S. Pacific Fleet, become the Navy's 33rd Chief of Naval Operations. Service members would see their biggest pay raise in 22 years starting in January under budget plans unveiled by a key House committee on Monday. The measure still has numerous legislative hurdles before it becomes law. And former President Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to federal charges. The charges allege he hoarded classified documents detailing sensitive military secrets and schemed to thwart government efforts to get them back.
We're the Army and proud of our name. We're the Army.
And on this day in history, in 1775, the Continental Congress founded what would become the U.S. Army. Happy birthday, Army. That's it for us this morning. To get more of the top stories and breaking news, go to defensenews.com/EBB to subscribe to the Early Bird Brief newsletter. Please give us a like, rating, and a comment wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media @defense_news and @Military Times. The Early Bird Brief is hosted by me, Jonathan Lehrfeld, and produced by Zimone Z. Perez. Today's episode features stories by the Associated Press, Brian Harris, and myself. Our editor-in-chief is Mike Bruce. Have a great day.